Okay, good morning, everybody, and I want to welcome everybody to the MV Pro November 2017 exclusive webinar. We have Selling in the 21st Century, and I do want to make a quick announcement as we are starting, and while Kelly is still available to talk. He has an appointment he's going to be going on here in a minute, but I want to make a quick announcement. Tomorrow we will have a guest speaker on our MV Pro call, and she will be talking about water filtration while hiking. And Kelly, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and discuss a little bit about that? Okay, it's possible that Kelly has not able to unmute himself. So, but tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern Time, we will have a gal on, and she is going to be talking about backpacking and water filtration, and she will talk about how to do all that, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. And can everybody hear me okay? Stacy, Stacy, I'm unmuting you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, awesome, thanks. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I want to start off with saying thank you to everybody. I do appreciate getting up early in the morning and starting your day off with us, Moti-Vitality, and we do really appreciate everything. So let's start talking about selling in the 21st century. Why this topic? I actually had somebody that asked me to go ahead and start talking about this particular topic, and I'm sorry, I have to go ahead and mute somebody who just came on. So somebody was asking about, asking me to go ahead and start talking about how things are changing. So, what used to work back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even in the early 2000s, they're just not working anymore. So they asked to talk a little bit about this. So times are changing. And, we can teach an old dog new tricks. So those of you who have been in the industry for quite a while, we definitely, you can learn a few things here, and maybe in the long run you can teach me a couple new things also. And there are little things that can cause big sales. So those who have been in the industry for quite a while, there are things that are changing that you really maybe come up to date. And for those of you who are newer to the industry, there are a lot of things that hopefully you can learn here today. We're going to talk about old school versus new school, and we are going to talk about going back to the basics also. And we're going to talk about creating business, different ways to create business nowadays, and also talk about the sales appointment. I mean, that's kind of the bread and butter of our business is getting into the sales appointment, and we're going to talk about what to do after the visit. So where I did my research, as most of you know, I was a sales professional back in here in Michigan in Lapeer County, and I had to create quite a bit of my own business. I was in uncharted territory, and so this is where I started it all. And so I kind of picked up on things as I was out there. Also, national sales trainer, and I love being kind of a fly on the wall and seeing what other sales professionals do. And with that, I learn a lot, but there are also little things that I can pick up on when you're looking at the body language of the homeowner when you have a sales professional standing there giving options. So that's where I picked up on a lot of my research. I'm a consumer, which, that somebody coming in and selling me windows, or, recently I had a furnace guy in, and just things like that. I know what I like and what I don't like. Um, Facebook is probably a huge area. You will see me talking about different groups on Facebook, and how that can help your business, how it can hurt your business, and where it can help you develop new business. And then feedback from you. So I love learning from those of you who are out in the field. And there are little things that you might see that help out. I would love for you to join in the conversation here. This is not just the Jen Smith conversation. This is for everybody to discuss what works and what doesn't work. So please feel free to join in. I'll kind of backtrack a little bit. I apologize for this. I'm not used to doing this whole making sure everybody's muted and everything, but feel free to go ahead. Up towards the top of your screen, there is a button, and it kind of slides down. It says that you are viewing Kelly Thompson's presentation, but when you kind of hover over that, there's an option to unmute and mute yourself. So if you have something you want to say, to add, or any questions to ask, please, 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 please make sure you jump on there and ask. There's also up there, there's a chat button, and you can go ahead and click on the chat. Everybody can read it that way. Make sure that you note that you want to send it to everyone, or you can say just Kelly Thompson, because today I guess I'm Kelly Thompson. But you go ahead and click on there, and I'll try to keep my eye open for any of the chats that are going on. But so back in the day, I think I need to move this back. Back in the day, it used to be what I guess the old school way of selling is always be closing, always be closing, always be closing. You have to close day of. And just recently I talked to a sales professional that he said that he left a company because he had a sales manager who was just very cut and dry. You cannot leave the house until you make the sale. You never leave. And nowadays, consumers are picking up on that. They do not like that whatsoever. They don't want the high-pressure sales. And the Elite Daily, I read a report just recently saying that instead of always be closing, the ABCs of selling is always be collaborating. So what consumers are looking for right now, they're looking for product quality. They are also looking for good customer service. We, for a while there, we got complacent with bad customer service. We got complacent with going to a fast food restaurant or any restaurant and just going in there and, seeing somebody who just doesn't even look at you when they're asking for your order. And or even when we call up and try to talk to somebody, even in a water conditioning company, I've heard where the person answering the phone has just been downright rude, and we couldn't deliver your salt because you weren't home, people are getting tired of that. For the longest time back in the day, you had to give great customer service, and then we lost that. Now consumers, they want to get back to that good customer service. They also want to see the brand support for society. So one of the things that we do ask when we're hiring and training sales professionals, but when we're doing the hiring process, one of the things that we ask is, what do you do in your community? And that's something that is really important to consumers. What are you doing for community involvement? What are you doing to give back? And I just saw the other day, there's a lot of the adoptive families going on and stuff, and I just saw a company, it happened to be a grout company, that clicked on one of the Facebook, it was like our Positively collection, I think, and they said, you know what, this is only our third year in business. This year we made a good profit. We want to go ahead and we want to adopt a family. Who can you recommend to adopt a family at? And I thought that was fantastic. There were like 5 or 6 people that jumped on there and said, hey, this is excellent. By the way, can you come out and give me a quote on regrouting my shower? And what the owner, what I loved about it was he said, this wasn't the reason for my post, you're more than welcome to join or look at our website, but still want to find a family to adopt for Christmas. So that is what people are looking for. Consumers expect brands and service providers to stand for more than their bottom line. When they feel like a brand genuinely cares about them and not just the dollars they're spending, they'll quickly develop an affinity for the brand and for brand loyalty. And that is where people are going to.
Hey, Jen, I can't hear you.
Okay, sorry about the technical difficulties. I am going to continue on. So moving on to, let me move this over here. Okay, moving on to creating business, the old school versus new school. Door knocking. This is something that when we hire sales professionals, that is one of the first things they ask about is, do I have to do door knocking? And I personally am not a big fan of door knocking for a couple of reasons. One of the biggest reasons that I'm not a fan of door knocking is because I do not feel comfortable with somebody coming and knocking on my door while I'm sitting here, either I'm working or serving dinner or, whatever. I don't feel comfortable with somebody knocking on my door. So I don't really feel comfortable doing it to somebody else. Just recently, Polly Undusser she's the WQA Executive Director, she sent out this letter saying that there were individuals claiming to be employees of WQA going door to door saying that they had to offering to test the homeowners' drinking water. And then they were using scare tactics to sell water treatment devices. Now, I happened to be working with a company just before this came out, and it was an existing company that we were just kind of doing a day trip with them. And there was one of their, what they call door knockers or lead generators, he was knocking on an elderly couple's door. And he said that they worked closely with the community water system and where they were at. The couple misunderstood him. And when they misunderstood him, he said, can we have somebody come out and test your water? They agreed to it. They were responsible for calling in and making the appointment. When they did, when they called that number, it was the water treatment company. Well, they felt really shafted when they had heard that, wait a minute, you said that you were with the municipal water system and you're a water treatment company. What's going on here? So sometimes it's not always what's said, but what is heard. So door knocking is not something that I'm really a big fan of. Maybe putting out flyers instead of actually going to the door, or there's door hangers that you can put on, but actually knocking on the door isn't always, to me, I think that it's kind of, people don't like it nowadays. But not only that, you think about it, they talk about how you have to go to 100 homes to get one yes. Now, that one, yes, I like looking at the positives, but there's also the reality of there's 99 no's. And when you have 99 doors closed in your face and that rejection, that kind of makes for a crummy day, if you ask me. So I would rather find different ways to create business than to have 99 doors slammed in my face. Most people don't slam the door in your face, but there are a couple. So let's talk about some of the old school versus new school. The yellow pages versus Google. There is, there are people that still look at the yellow pages, but there's also Google to put out there. And now if you are going to choose Google, you have to make sure that you pretty much have to hire a company to do it, because there's the Google Analytics and there's all of the, you have to make sure that you're on the top of the list and everything else. So if you do decide to work with Google or any of the other online places, you have to make sure, you probably have to hire a company to do that to make sure you're towards the top. Now the yellow pages, they are still helpful. Now what they're helpful for is kind of, you can go through the yellow pages and you can look at different companies, and this is an exercise that we do quite often. We go through and look at the different headers of different types of companies that we can build relationships with. So if you want to know a little bit more about the yellow pages exercise, give me or Kelly a shout and we will talk about that. But mailers versus online advertising, and this goes back to the Google analytics and things like that, but mailers nowadays, I find myself when I'm walking back from the mailbox, I stop at the recycle bin and I toss all of the ads that I don't need. I don't even want them coming in the house. And that's kind of what everybody does. However, if you do send out mailers, you have to make sure that you do it more than once. So you have to look at the costs associated with getting your name out there. Are mailers really working or not? Make sure that you're tracking whether or not the mailers are working. We recently knew of a company, they sent out 2,000 mailers. It cost them right around $2,000 to send that initial blast out there. And they did end up getting 2 or 3 calls from that, made 2 or 3 sales, which is really good. But they found that they had to do it 2 or 3 times before people really started calling in. So again, you really have to weigh out the options of whether or not that works for you. Now, bottle drops. That's another thing that kind of I look at as a little bit of old school. And if you're not familiar with bottle drops, basically what you would do is you would take a bottle and you would hang it on somebody's front door. Some people actually tied them to sticks, and there would be a note in there saying, send in your water to this address. They had a self-addressed stamped envelope, and we will go ahead and look at your water, and then we'll test it and call you with the results. Well, the problem with that is there was miscommunication. A lot of people feel that it's probably the city that's dropping it off, or, this bottle, they send it in, and then when they have a water treatment call them up, they get really upset. Another thing is, a lot of times you don't get water back in those little bottles, so that kind of isn't so great for the sales professionals. But another great way to do this is water clinics. So what you do is you go ahead and you set up with maybe a local hardware store or a local convenience store or something, and you ask them, can I hold a water clinic at your facility? Usually it's outside, you have a little canopy, and you advertise beforehand, people bring you their water. Where else is that going to happen on a Saturday morning? You can either do that or you can drive around. So water clinics are really an excellent way to get people to bring water to you. And then websites and blogs, that is another way to create new business. Make sure that there are still a lot of companies out there that don't have websites, believe it or not. It is so important to have a presence. Make sure your website is up to date. That is very important. And if you want to make sure that you have a presence towards the top of the Google search, make it so that you are typing in blog or putting in a blog section. And it can be just really short articles, just hey, I was happy to help out such and such customer, talk about different things that you've done in your community, just things like that, so that your company stays up towards the top of the page. And the more activity, the higher up you are on the page. So those are a great way to create new business. And then Facebook groups. Those of you who know me know that I'm passionate about my Facebook groups. I have found, and this kind of just blows my mind, is that we have Positively Clarkston, and then in my neighborhood here, and then we have a couple of other local Facebook groups that I belong to. And I have found in the past couple of months, any time that there is an issue that concerns water, they now say, go to Jennifer Smith, she's the water expert. And the first time I read that, I was just like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. Now, I don't sell in my area, so I'm able to give them answers that, are kind of, I'm not trying to sell them anything. I'm just giving them recommendations of maybe what they should do. And it was just as recently as yesterday that I had somebody that private messaged me and asked me a question. I'm going to talk about that question here in a little while, but I thought that was just so super cool that people look at me as the water expert. So join those groups and respond, not using scare tactics, but respond to those different groups and those different water questions. So make it a party. There are, they have Tupperware parties, they have jewelry parties, they have parties for like everything, and parties that even make you blush. Well, we had a sales professional that came up with an idea to go ahead and have a water party. They had a client who wanted a reverse osmosis, but she couldn't afford it, so he said, every referral that I get, I'll give you $50 towards that reverse osmosis. Well, then she decided to have a party, and everybody brought their water. He talked about water, how the benefits of soft water, and then told the different homeowners that came and the different ladies that came different recommendations. And he sold 3 units that way, which was major awesome. So it was $150 towards her reverse osmosis. So if you need more ideas on how to start that up, again, feel free to give me or Kelly a shout. Relationship building. Old-fashioned relationship building, whether it's with a BNI group or going out canvassing in your area and talking to homeowners or builders, or if you have a subdivision going up, the model home, the salesperson at the model home, hairdressers, appliance stores, you name it, you can build a relationship with anybody. So this is the old school versus the new school, but this is kind of goes back to old school. Just do the old-fashioned relationship building. Talk about how you help people. I had just 2 days ago, I had the lady that worked at Verizon that sold me my cell phone. I had her call me 2 days ago and asked me questions about her new house and her water. And I was just blown away because she doesn't even work at Verizon anymore, but she remembered that I do water. I help out in the water treatment industry. And she says, I have no, as a matter of fact, she had no idea what a water softener was. And it was very, I had to explain to her what a water softener was, what the orange staining was, and everything else. So the more you talk to people about what you do and how you help people is definitely going to get your name out there. And it doesn't have to be high-pressure sales. Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm a water treatment salesperson. No, you don't have to do that. Just, you know what, I was so happy I was able to help out this homeowner with this, or I had the coolest appointment today, and, then people know what you do. Your current customers, you want to give them wow service. In their wow service, make sure that you're following up with them. And jump in, swing by their houses and talk to them even after you've made the sale. It could be 6 months down the road. It could be a year down the road, even 4 or 5 years later. Just go ahead, call up your current customers, and give them that wow service. Just want to swing by, make sure everything's working okay, completely free of charge. especially if you're a new territory manager, or if it's somebody that, if it's a homeowner that is kind of one of those orphans where maybe the sales professional left the company, then you can pick up on those and give them well service. And hopefully what you get out of it is either you can sell them a piece of equipment they don't currently have, or you can go ahead and you can offer them, or they can refer you to somebody else. So lead generation, this is kind of a newer way of creating business, but you have to make sure that you keep up to date on what's the newest version. We had Angie's List. Everybody loved Angie's List, but Angie, she's kind of old school. She's out there now. She's not even invited to the party anymore. Then there's Home Advisor. A lot of people were jumping on Home Advisor. Now it's Thumbtack. And there may be, I think there's another one, and honestly, I just heard it like a day or two ago. I don't know how popular it is, and so I need to look it up and see what it is. But make sure you're with the new up and coming of these different lead generation programs. And if you don't know what they are, basically is that you put your name into, you register for these different companies, and when somebody Google or somebody searches on, let's say, Home Advisor and says, I'm looking for water treatment, it'll pop up different providers in the area. And when you put in your information, it actually, when the homeowner puts in their information, it actually sends those leads out to 5 or 6 different companies. But what is really, really important is to make sure that as soon as you get that lead, you call them. And there was a study that was conducted, 2,241 companies on the response times to the online leads, such as Angie's List, Home Advisor, Thumbtack. And 37% of them, they responded within 1 hour. 16% responded after 1 to 24 hours. So 37% of the people who get those leads, the company that get those leads, they respond within 1 hour. 24% never responded after 24, or responded after 24 hours. 23% never responded. Firms that tried to contact potential customers within an hour of receiving a query were nearly 7 times as likely to qualify the lead as those that tried to contact the customer even an hour later. More than 60 times as likely as companies that wait 24 hours or longer. So 7 times more likely. Now, honestly, if somebody doesn't give me a call back within 24 hours, I am probably not going to be able to, I'm probably not going to invite them into my home. Same thing with, usually the first person that calls is the first one to get in the house. So, and they're probably most likely going to be the one to close the sale. So make sure that if you're using those that you are definitely responding right away. Little success secret, it's their story. This is so important to remember. Talking about modern technology, do you remember back in the day when we used to, I had 100 napkins, I swear, all over the place. The McDonald's, Wendy's, you name it. I had napkins with people's phone numbers on there and the addresses and what they wanted, and then I had to go and find that napkin when it was time to go on the sales appointment or find their address or something. Now there's customer relation management. We use Moti-Vitality, we use Salesforce, there's Zoho, that is an excellent customer relation management. And basically what it is you put in the customer's information, and you can even put in like the water test, what they purchased, or when they want you to call back. If it's a new home that's being built, you can kind of keep adding the information as you're going and checking on that new home. It's just so much easier to keep track of your customers, your potential customers, and everything else. So I highly recommend a CRM. Paperwork versus tablet. When you go into the home, there are a couple of our companies, they're using tablets instead of going in with the contracts. They're saving a couple of trees. So that's something else to look at is, is it much easier to use a tablet? At first there's that learning curve, but people are really respecting the fact that there's not so much paperwork that you're having to fill out and so much paperwork that you're having to file. So tablet is an excellent way to jump into the new and up and coming. Literature versus digital brochure. You know, again, you need to kind of look at your age group. Some of the older homeowners, they still like getting that literature and looking at the literature. Some of the younger ones, they like seeing a digital brochure. But digital brochures are definitely a way that you're going to save money by not having all that extra literature and then maybe just leaving one or two pieces of literature behind. But those are, digital brochures are something that it's excellent to use, especially if you want to show somebody maybe the water hardness chart or something like that. Using digital brochure is awesome. And then standard equipment versus Bluetooth. Bluetooth is something that's kind of up and coming, and I think this is really cool. I have actually seen homeowners purchase a water softener just because it has Bluetooth. People are into the gadgety type of things, and the fact that they have Bluetooth, that their water softener can talk to their phone and say whether or not it's going to regenerate or it's low on salt, you know, a lot of people will say, who's going to spend the money on that? But in all honesty, look at the number of people that are standing outside the Apple store to get the new iPhone. It's because even though their old iPhone, they still have not paid it off, they want the new iPhone. And so, you know, same thing with the Bluetooth. So if you have something new like Bluetooth, a new feature that people might like, then start calling up your existing customers. Maybe you have a trade-in program or something like that. Talk to them about the new up and coming, and maybe even if they don't want to get it, maybe their neighbor is interested in something like that. So keep up to date on the modern technologies. Stay up to date with up and coming. And we're going to talk a little bit about water uses. Hair and skincare. This is a little bit of my what women want thing, but it is also talking about the different water uses. Malibu treatments, if you're not familiar with a Malibu treatment, I am going to challenge you to go into a hair salon or go into a hair college or school. Ask them what a Malibu treatment is, and they will be excited to tell you what a Malibu treatment is. There are many times that I've gone into the home and I've heard the missus say, you know what, I am just so tired of having to have Malibu treatments done on my hair. So go into a hair salon, I challenge you, ask what a Malibu treatment is. Skincare products. This is Rodan & Fields. This company is not sold, these products are not sold in stores. They are sold by skincare consultants, and it is a $1 billion industry. And the reason that we have to have skincare is because 85% of the United States has hard water. And as we know, hard water leads to, you know, clogging of pores, things like that. So a $1 billion industry, and it's not even sold in stores. I think that is just amazing. So talking to people about skincare, and we're not talking about only women, but talking to people about skincare is really important. This is part of why one of the benefits that soft water has is so you don't have to spend so much money on skincare. Water using appliances. You have your coffee makers. Keurig, they say that you're supposed to use distilled water or reverse osmosis water. Your steam irons and your steam mops. Steam mops are kind of the new up and coming. You have to use distilled or reverse osmosis in your steam mops. Norwex cleaning, I had somebody that came up to me after a presentation just recently. It was a gentleman, and one of the sales professionals, and he says, you need to talk about these Norwex cleaning. They're washcloths. They're kind of overpriced washcloths, but they work awesome. They work great on the stainless steel and the glass and your flat top stoves and things like that. They have special claws for each of those, but it says you're supposed to use distilled or reverse osmosis water. And you don't have to use any chemicals or soaps or anything like that. That's what they're known for, is all you do is you use water, you wipe it down, you let it dry, and it's awesome. So, but that's the up and coming. If you happen to see somebody with one of these Norwex cleaning claws hanging up, then you know, hey, you have to use reverse osmosis for that. Essential oils, those of you who know me know that I'm into the essential oils, but the diffusers that they have, you are supposed to put reverse osmosis or distilled water into the diffusers, and that's where you put the oil and you put some water in, and then it lets off a steam. And but anyways, so that is what, if you walk into a home and they're diffusing oils, reverse osmosis is what they're supposed to use. Tankless water heaters, refrigerators. I was talking about the post just yesterday that somebody posted something and said, ask Jennifer Smith. Somebody was talking about how the refrigerator, the calcium had built up along the front of the refrigerator because they have a 3-year-old that when she goes to get water, it drips on the front of the refrigerator. So she has this great big white stripe down her refrigerator. And, you know, explaining to her, somebody was trying to tell her, well, you need more filters. And other people, luckily, were saying, no, the filters aren't going to do it. You need to get a water softener. So I explained to her the importance of a water softener. And, oh, you can have reverse osmosis. Go to your refrigerator also and definitely get rid of that. So those of you who have watched the What Women Want, this is this is an excellent tool to take into the home. This is for dishwashers, talks about how much hardness you have in your water, 0 to 3 grains. You use 2 teaspoons of detergent, medium to hard water. You're going to use 5 teaspoons. Anybody recognize this right here? This is basically very close to what the Water Quality Association says for water hardness. So if you would like a copy of this, it's on Moti-Vitality.com. Or again, if you would like to talk a little bit more about it, give me a shout. You know, when you're using less soap, this is something else to talk about. If you have somebody that you're walking in and you can tell that they have the reusable shopping bags and they maybe drive a hybrid car and things like that, talk to them about how much money they're going to save and how much they're going to save the environment, because the less soap that you're using, that means the less Tide bottles that you're using, that means the less plastics are going into the recycle or going into the trash, you know, into the dumps. So you can talk about the impact that it has on the environment. Health and fitness. Talk a little bit about, if you notice it's somebody that seems to be into health and fitness, talk about how good drinking water definitely makes a difference. And fur babies, these are my fur babies here. I had to brag about them. This is my Jasper dog. This is Leo. Leo lives in Los Angeles. Apparently just graduated from college last spring with his mama. But anyways, people just love their fur babies. And there have been many times that they purchased reverse osmosis systems because that's what their pets like. So talk about how pets like clean drinking water and how important it is. You know, something to remember, you are the water professional, just the same as a doctor is a professional. You are the water professional. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this here. You're not just a water softening salesperson. Just a few days ago on the 11th, there was an article that came out, and it talked about the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They just recently put out a study saying that in the years 2013, 2014, that there were 42 drinking water associated outbreaks that were caused by infectious pathogens, chemicals, or toxin. And that didn't include the lead contamination, so that didn't even include the whole Flint thing. But there were 1,006 cases of illness, 124 hospitalizations, and 13 deaths. And 75% of that were linked to community water. So this is where it becomes really important that we are starting to work towards this final barrier. And the final barrier is the in-home water treatment. Talking about final barrier and all of that, I mean, just recently we had in Michigan, we had 9 or 10 communities that had boil water advisories because there was a water main break. So it's so important to talk about final barriers so that people understand that, yeah, the municipalities do the best job that they can to make sure that you get clean drinking water, but it is also your responsibility to go ahead and take it that one step further to make sure that your family has clean drinking water. So you are the professional. When you are setting up the appointment, one thing to remember is don't assume that there is a Mr. or Mrs. Some people, they do get pretty upset about this, or, it's just, we're in the 21st century, but, you have single people, you have people that are shacking up. People nowadays, they don't like the husband and wife title. And then we're also in the 21st century. So same-sex marriage is legal, and there are many of them out there. So sometimes you don't want to send that person right from the get-go saying, hey, is your wife going to be there when there's not a wife there, or is your husband going to be there when there's not a husband there? To confirm or not confirm, this is always a question. I believe that you should confirm, and there are a couple reasons why. Just if anything, as a reminder, but it is really how you say it. Just, go ahead and ask them, hi, this is Jen from ABC Water. Excuse me, looks like I will be swinging by around 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Wanted to introduce myself, let you know how excited I am to meet with you. Also want to confirm your road is off County Road 132 on the west side of Old Farmer's Dell. You want to make sure that you know where you're going, or maybe ask, is there anything different about the home? Sometimes there might be a long winding driveway, or maybe they don't have a mailbox near their house. Maybe it's down the road or something. So that way it gives them the opportunity to tell you what they, helpful tips on getting there. I've been to homes where they've said, yeah, you're the only person that's come out. 2 people didn't show up because they couldn't find my house. So making sure that when you confirm, get those directions. So preparation, attire, suits versus jeans. I know a lot of people have got a little bit lax and they go wear jeans on appointments. I think it's really important to wear a clean shirt and pants. Make sure you're clean shaven, and usually shirt and pants, maybe even just like a polo or a button up and khakis. Make sure you're clean shaven. If you have a beard, make sure it's well trimmed. Don't wear your Sunday socks. It's just kind of tacky, your holy socks. And wear, I say clean shoes or booties. I am a huge fan of booties because you're going out of your way to put your booties on. Taking your shoes off is one thing, but to put those booties on, that speaks volumes to the homeowner. And not only that, sometimes you need to protect your socks, and you learn really good yoga poses when you put on booties. So, but I think booties really speak volumes. If you smoke, try not to smoke before sales appointments. You may not be able to smell it on yourself, but other people can smell it on you. And if you do smoke, don't cover it up real heavy with Old Spice or anything like that. There are a lot of people who are really sensitive to different smells, and especially colognes and things like that. So my advice is just try not to smoke before your appointments. Make sure your test kit is clean. Remember, you're the professional. You would not want to go to a doctor and see this. But make sure it's clean, and make sure that all of your mixing bowls and everything else, they don't have somebody else's leftover calcium built up on there. There are so many times I've seen that. Make sure that you have a clipboard or your tablet. Again, some companies are going to the tablet. Make sure that if you are using the clipboard that you prepare a folder, have extra literature, financing paperwork, an extra pen. That's really important. Or if you're using a tablet, make sure it's charged. I've had that happen where it just dies right in the middle. Your arrival time, make sure that, I'm not a big fan of somebody showing up to my house 5 minutes early. I know some people say that if you're not 5 minutes early, then you're late. I'm not a big fan of that. So I use that last 5 minutes to finish cleaning up my house or doing whatever I have to do. So showing up right on time, I think, is excellent. If you're going to be late, make sure you call and just say, hey, it looks like I'm going to be about 5 minutes late. I'm stuck in traffic. And people appreciate that. When you introduce yourself, make sure that you are letting them know who you are, where you're from. Make sure you're using eye contact, explain your agenda, and respect the homeowner's time. That's really important that you respect their time. Being in the house for 2 hours is not going to leave a really good impression unless you guys are sitting there talking about something that you have in common. And again, make sure that you're wearing your booties. When you're in the home, make sure that you're seen. Watch your humor. What you may think is funny, somebody else might not think is as funny. Don't invade personal space. There are some people that get really close to other people, and homeowners don't like that. This is something that's kind of old school. I know that there are some older generations that, everybody was honey and sweetie, and that doesn't fly these days. So try not to use the honey and sweetie and babe. That kind of turns people off. Chicklet, that's another one. Now, sit down and ask questions and listen to what they are asking for. Listen to their concerns and use empathy. I totally understand that you're getting this white stain on your refrigerator and how it's driving you crazy. Let's see what we can do to fix that. Carry a clean towel outside your test kit, and then go ahead and lay your test kit and all the chemicals on the towel. You don't want to scratch up the countertop, and you don't want to end up like, especially the hardness, the number 2 on the hardness, you don't want to end up getting that dye on the countertops. Make contact with both the homeowners. This is a concern that I've heard quite often, is that a sales professional isn't usually looking at both homeowners, and a lot of times they're not looking at the women. Something to remember is that women make 85% of the traditional male purchases. And not only that, but they're purchasing for their children, and they're purchasing for their parents. They're helping in those decision making. So make sure you're making contact with both homeowners. Educate them, so important to educate. Don't use layman's terms like UV or RO. Make sure you're talking about ultraviolet, reverse osmosis, because a lot of people don't know what UV and RO stand for. And don't belittle, even if they have no idea what they're talking about. Make sure that, you guide them to that decision. And, if they say they want a whole house reverse osmosis, guide them to the decision of what a whole house reverse osmosis is and whether or not they really want it. Maybe they do. Maybe they do want a whole house reverse osmosis and they're willing to pay the money. But if they don't know what they're talking about, guide them in the right direction to what they do, what you need them to understand. Continue to educate, talk about water softening 101. I apologize, I know I'm going through these kind of quick, but we had since we had that little bit of a layover there. So educate, use demonstrations. Talk about the benefits of softened water, reverse osmosis water. Even if they have a water softener, there are a lot of people that don't realize they had a water softener before, but they don't realize that they're supposed to use less soap. They don't realize that, what the water softener does. There are so many times I've been to a home and they say, yeah, the guy, he just came in and he put it in. I have no idea what it does. And once you educate them, they're going to share their education with other people. And when they do that, then they're going to say, yeah, I had this great guy come in and he told me what what a water softener is. And so, they're going to talk about the soft water, and they're going to talk about you and then possibly refer you. Most importantly, be honest. When you're in the home, it is so important that you're honest, and don't use scare tactics. So at the closing, ask, are there any questions? And listen to those questions. Give options. and don't use scare tactics. Going back to the options, I think it's really important, whether you call it a good, better, best, or the economy, or the, the Ford Focus versus the Maserati, or whatever you want to call it. Give them different options, and because people like options. And again, it's their story. Don't use scare tactics, please. Keep this industry, keep good faith in this industry. Listen to the areas of concern again and give empathy. When you give the options, don't say a word. Just be quiet. So important. And make them feel comfortable with their decision. If they don't have the money or they don't feel the need to have that Bluetooth option, then make them feel comfortable. Just even if they choose not to do anything with their water at this time, make them feel comfortable with their decision. And just tell them, I completely understand, but when you're ready, go ahead and give me a shout. I'm here for you. Not, well, why not do it right now? I've actually seen that. So make them feel comfortable with their decision. Make sure you clean up after yourself, so important. And go above and beyond. Make sure you do something a little extra, whether it's bring up the trash cans or pick up some trash outside or something like that. Go above and beyond. There's actually a couple companies out there that they pay their service technicians for an extra 15 minutes to do something within the home, whether it's sweep the garage or something. That's what they pay their service technicians to do, go above and beyond. And, I feel that education and great service are your closing. I love this saying, your smile is your logo, your personality is your business card, and how you leave others feeling after an experience with you becomes your trademark. So I love sending handwritten thank you notes, because back in the day when you got mail 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you got mail. And it's like, yay. Well, when we were talking about email, well, now you have 220 unread emails, and when you get that handwritten letter, I know if I get a handwritten card, somebody hand wrote on the envelope or something like that, that's the first thing I open up, because it's like, oh my gosh, somebody took the time to actually handwrite my name on the front of an envelope. It's awesome. And you give great service, people are going to talk about you. Okay, so ask for that second date, many more. You may not sell that night. 35% of purchasers take up to 90 days to make a decision, 28% buy between 3 months and 6 months, 19% wait 6 months to 12 months. My roof, I knew that we needed a new roof within the next couple years. I started shopping around because we were looking at getting the metal roofs. And, I would let people know right from the get-go, hey, we're just getting prices. We're just getting ideas. I had absolutely no idea how much a metal roof cost. And that's how some people are also with the water treatment. They have no idea, because they see over at the box stores, they see a water softener for $299. It's not even a water softener, but it claims it's going to take care of everything in their house. So don't expect that they're going to be buying that day. That leaves only 16% actually purchase that day. So, if they don't purchase, then ask, when is a good time for me to call? Should I call? Should I text? Should I email? What is the best form of communication for me to get a hold of you? And then when you do sell it, then make sure that you try to make an appearance at the install. They've already trusted you. And so for you to pop in and just say, hey, just want to make sure everything was going okay with the install, wow, that is super wow service. And then in 2 weeks, we think we recommend that a percentage of commission is held back until that 2-week follow-up. And we give about a month for our sales professionals to get back into the home, but 2 weeks, it gives them enough time for everything to to keep running and everything else. And, you know, 2 weeks for questions to come up. Oh, gosh, what happens if the time goes out? Then, you know, I know they said something when they installed it on how to reset the clock, but I don't remember. You know, so go back 2 weeks later, make sure everything's working okay, and then show them everything about the water softener as far as, you know, if you have to reset the clock or, you know, where to put the salt in. Some people don't know that, where the shutoff valve is. If something were to happen within the house, just little things like that gives that wow service. And then about every 6 months, go ahead and even if it's a handwritten note or if it's a quick phone call, follow up with them. Make sure everything's working okay, and that leaves your name in their mind. This here is for business owners. I know we have a few business owners on here, but there are a couple of companies we've just recently started working with, and I love how involved they are with their employees and how much they empower their employees. And this is something that popped up the other day, and I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, this explains why their companies are so successful right now, is because they take care of their employees. And when you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your business. So I think this is a great success secret for business owners, managers, and so on. And, okay, I'm sorry, I know I whizzed through some of that, and trying to make it, everybody, make sure we were done by 10:30. I apologize for all the technical difficulties. But we do have tomorrow, we have our special guest speaker, Samantha Schaefer. She's going to talk about rustic backpacking, water filtration. Kelly just recently went on a backpacking excursion. I think he had 20 miles in 2 or 3 days is what he had said. And it was 2 nights, I think is what he had said. And, you know, you don't want to carry around 2 gallons of water, 3 gallons of water that you need. So she's going to talk about different devices to, and you know, you never know when you're going to get stuck on like Naked and Afraid. That can be like your little extra piece of, you know, who needs fire when you have those little drinking water filters. So anyways, she'll talk about different filters, things like that. So does anybody have any questions? I'm going to go ahead and see if I can, I can't figure out. Okay, I'm going to unmute all. Does anybody have any questions? Anything to add? Okay, excellent. Oh, Brian, I see you're on here. You're the one that talked about the Norwex. So, hey, like I said, I listen to what everybody says. So, anyways, okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Again, sorry for technical difficulties. If you have any questions, please, please, please feel free to give me or Kelly a call. And I hope to see everybody tomorrow on the call. We'll talk to you later.